ACC Player of the Year, three-time All-American, considered one of the greatest players to ever play here. We'll let him start off by making a couple opening comments, and then you can go ahead and ask the question. Okay?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm here for two reasons. One, to be part of the celebration of South Carolina basketball history for 100 years, and on behalf of my teammates and the very fine teams I played on, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and for bringing me here today. And secondly, I'm here to honor the very fine coaching career of Coach Dave Odom. You know, you had a coach here the last 6 years who has won over 400 college basketball games and 3 times ACC Coach of the Year, and led this school to 2 NIT championships. And he accomplished all of that, and including his years here at South Carolina with class and dignity, and running his program in compliance with NCAA rules. So I hope you're very proud of his accomplishments, and feel privileged that he was the coach in this program for this many years. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to be here.
From afar, do you watch this program and where it is right now, and where it might go in the new coach? Are you interested in that?
Well, I live in Denver, Colorado, so it's kind of far away, and I actually don't follow too many sports that closely. Some. I'm an active tennis player these days, and I love the game, so I follow tennis very closely. I follow, like maybe most Americans, the NCAA tournament when it rolls around, and I do loosely follow the university, and as you know, Bobby Cremins was my teammate and still my good friend, so I now follow the College of Charleston and follow Georgia Tech very closely the years he was there. But I think that this is South Carolina plays basketball in a very competitive environment, with competing against many other fine schools for a very limited number of players. So it's a challenge for any basketball coach these days at a school in this area to consistently recruit players who could play at a national level and be a nationally ranked team. So if the expectations for any coaches in the 1990s and 2000, and for the next coach at the university to definitely produce national quality teams, top 5, top 10 teams, top 15 teams every year over a long period of time, that is very difficult to ask of anybody in this environment. However, it certainly is possible to put together some fine teams in a row when you get fortunate and recruit some top quality players. But expectations can be a tough thing, and maybe the teams that we played on at South Carolina created some expectations that even after the 70s and the 80s and 90s and in the current generation, one could have a basketball program that is constantly in the top 5 and top 10, and I think, as you see, only a very few universities are able to do that in both football and basketball.
Any suggestions by you coaches?
No, I don't, and I wouldn't even know where to begin, because I don't follow college basketball closely enough to know who for example, the highly regarded or highly prized coaches at the smaller schools or highly prized assistants. So I certainly wouldn't be in a position to urge you or suggest anyone to you.
John, you guys play your teams had a lot of confidence, a lot of swag when you go out there and win, and it was kind of a foregone conclusion. Do you think teams to win consistently these days need that kind of attitude, that swagger, that confidence?
Well, I certainly think you need confidence. That's for sure. I think, and maybe you didn't always need the kind of confidence the way we would sometimes display it. But I think that certainly to be successful really in anything, you have to have a certain confidence level that you can succeed. And but confidence comes from being successful. So we started to win some games, and that improved our confidence. And we knew we had a lot of talent in the program at the time I was here. And for example, my senior year in college, we had four of the really the entire starting five played professional basketball at some level after college. So that is a team with a lot of talent. And then before me, Skip Harlicker and Gary Greger were two first-round draft choices, and after me came Alex English and Brian Winters and others. So that was a period of time where Coach McGuire was able to recruit some outstanding talent to the university over a short period of time, and had some inroads into recruiting networks, which enabled him to do that. And as I said, that's just a little bit more difficult these days, and your next coach will find that challenging. Hopefully you get lucky a little bit, where you get a 7-footer who grows up right down the street and wants to come to Columbia or in South Carolina and wants to stay in state. He's not recruited by the pros like Jermaine O'Neal was, so you need some good luck as well.
During your career, what moment stands out for you
At-
within the ACC?
At South Carolina?
Yeah.
A number of moments, I guess. I think I've been asked this question by others, and it got me to focus on. I think the journey and the challenge to become one of the better teams in the ACC and one of the better teams in the nation was maybe in retrospect more enjoyable than the destination. So I think I enjoyed the games early in my sophomore year, maybe even some in my freshman year, where we were beginning to realize we were good enough to compete on a national level, and that we had the kind of team that we were hoping to have when Tommy Owens and I decided to come to South Carolina. So I think a number of games early on in my career were really quite memorable in that regard, because we realized that we had a dream and a desire to play on a top-notch college team, and some of those early games helped us realize that we were going to be able to accomplish that.
Is there any specific reason why you don't follow college basketball?
Well, I do a little bit, yeah. Well, I went on and played professional basketball for a number of years, 9 years, so I was playing professional basketball for twice as long as I played college basketball. So I follow some professional basketball also. It may be in part also because I live in Colorado. I've lived there since 1979, and college basketball isn't a very big thing in the state. The University of Colorado basketball team isn't supported. They usually get 2,000 or 3,000 people a game. So there's not a lot of attention given to college basketball in the state of Colorado. So maybe if I lived in a different area, like, for example, in the Southeast, where college basketball is still so prominent, I would follow it more closely. But it may be as much a function of geography as anything.
John, how do you compare your era of player in this era?
Oh, gee, I think, I hear players my age talk about the good old days and how players played in my era, but I am enormously impressed by the quality of the players today and how hard they work. I think players today on a yearly basis throughout the year work far harder than we were asked to work. I remember when I was a player, weightlifting was discouraged, and we played so much slower brand of basketball, so you didn't, I don't think, had to be in the condition that the players today have to be in. So I'm very impressed by the work ethic and the preparation that goes into college athletes today and to the pro athletes today. So I'm not one who looks back at some of the athletes in the past as getting ready to do their job in a way that today's players don't. In fact, just the opposite. I think that the commitment to be a top college player, professional player today requires it's a year-round job, and you need great talent.
You were recruited and played for Coach McGuire, who's a Hall of Fame coach. Was there any special life lessons that you learned from him that you've taken on into life that's helped you in later years?
I guess Coach McGuire coached in a way that gave us great independence and decision making. And at the end of a game, we would make a lot of decisions, and sometimes those decisions turned out very well, and sometimes they didn't. And that wasn't the best preparation for me for professional basketball, because coaches at the professional level weren't inclined to give me and other players that much freedom. But in terms of after basketball and going on with my life, I appreciated the fact that Coach McGuire let it be known to us that he was going to put the outcome of games in his players' hands, and you could get great satisfaction when things go well, and you have to deal with the disappointments when they don't. But so I guess he coached in a way that helped his players promote their independence and be self-sufficient, which I think is a very good life lesson.
John, do you realize, appreciate, whatever you want to phrase it, the reverence you have with our fans here, even to this day?
Well, it quite surprises me, actually. Because I've been away from South Carolina for many years, but I do understand that our team played at the university at a very unique and special time where the interest was very high in basketball in the ACC with Frank McGuire coming, and we had some very fine teams. So I appreciate that very much, and it's very touching. I was at an event today when people come up and talk to me and tell me that they have very fond memories when they were growing up of the teams that I played on, and that is it really is quite rewarding. But I'm here with my daughter, and she's absolutely shocked at the kind of attention that I and my teammates receive when we come back to South Carolina.
There was I don't know if wall was the right word, but a long time where people were screaming for the university to kind of get back in touch with its past, or whatever the case may be. Is it almost a feeling of being late and $1 short, or are you just relieved that finally it's being recognized?
No, I think I think there was a perception that over the years I didn't come back to South Carolina because of some type of negative reason or negative feeling. Really, it really wasn't the case. My life just brought me to other places and other things. I've lived, as I said, in Colorado since 1979, and haven't. From 1971 throughout the 70s, I was playing pro basketball in different cities. So I really didn't have the life opportunity to be in this area very much. And then I didn't really have a personal connection with many of the coaches who took over the program. In the years since I left, after Coach McGuire left, I did know George Felton a little, of course, a bit. He was a South Carolina guy, but. So no, there was really no conscious decision like, gee, I'm not going to get involved in the university or in the basketball program. Dave Odom made a concerted and genuine effort to involve me and others in the program, and something that I appreciated very much. And it's been a pleasure to be able to get back once in a while when he has asked me to come back and be a part of the South Carolina tradition. But the years that went by when I didn't come back to the state very much, it wasn't because I had any reason, any kind of feelings that I didn't want to come back. In fact, my memories at South Carolina are all now, as you get older, you have fewer memories, but they're all very fond memories.
So you were here in, 99, was it, for a game? 99, 96?
Yes, I came for after Coach McGuire passed away, they had a celebration of his life, so to speak, in the 90s. I forget what year exactly. It could have been 1996. And I did come back for an event at that. And I came back in 1980 for the game honoring Frank McGuire when he left as coach. And I've come back at a couple of other occasions, not so much connected with the university. But again, I'm delighted to come back now. And the years that went by when I didn't, it wasn't because I made any affirmative decision not to come back to the university. My life just didn't take me in that direction.
Hey, John, is there any hope to get Tom Mullins here at all? I know you haven't, when the last time you spoke to him, a lot of fans are trying to get Tom here, get his number retired. Is there any hope at all to bring Tom back to Columbus?
Well, I wouldn't hold your breath. Tommy, as his life has gone on, has made it be known that he's quite private, and he lives his life that way. And Ron Morris, you may have read his article that he wrote, which was very interesting about my high school days. And so Tom, which I didn't even know about, was invited back to a number of events relating to his high school career and to the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame, and he decided not to attend those either. So I think his decision not to come back to the university for to have his number retired or other things. I don't really think the university should take that personally, because Tom's been consistent across the board. He's not going back to some events and not others. He's not going back to any of them. Bobby Cremens and I were both very close with Tommy, and neither one of us has talked with him in over 20 years. So he's really Tommy's living his life the way he wishes to, and that I certainly wouldn't call him and ask him to change his mind on issues like that. He's kind of made it clear that that's what he wants. So I doubt if you'll see him anytime soon.
John, do you remember what your thought was when they got out of the ACC? Did you think then, oh, this is?
I thought it was a terrible idea, and at the time. Certainly for the basketball program, because I certainly, coming out of high school, would not have come to South Carolina if it was not in the ACC. Tommy and I decided that we wanted to play in that league at that time, to have the excitement of that league, and then we narrowed it down to schools in the league that we wanted to play in. So I think if South Carolina were an independent, or even in the SEC at that time, when it didn't have a basketball reputation other than if you went to Kentucky, at least to me, playing in the ACC on the basketball side was a very important aspect of recruiting. And I think even Coach McGuire, with all of his network, it took some time with his reputation. He was still able to recruit some players after 1971, but slowly but surely he wasn't able to do that when the school was an independent and didn't have that affiliation of competing against North Carolina and Duke and all these other schools. So from a basketball perspective, it was a terrible idea. My recollection at the time, it was a decision made mostly for reasons benefiting the football program, and you can tell me whether it's turned out to benefit the program or not. I don't know. It doesn't seem so.
When they got to the SEC, I know
Yeah.
they were the Metro, but SEC, clearly this school needs to be in a conference.
Yes. I think floating around those years as an independent in the Metro Conference, was that it? Was there another conference before the SEC? Yeah, the Metro. But you're taking a pretty big step down when you're going from the ACC to the Metro Conference. Now of course in the SEC that's a whole different thing, and obviously in the for the football program and maybe for the basketball program also. I still suspect that it's. I don't know if this is fair or not, but I would suspect that it's still more helpful to be in the ACC for your basketball program, and maybe it's better to be in the SEC for your football program. So I think now over the years it's turned out fine, but I would think that most people would look back and say that that was not a good decision to leave the ACC at that time.
Is that-
For the,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
I know you said geography has a lot to do with it, but could that have maybe played into the decision a little bit where you didn't really decide to follow much after your pro days, to follow South Carolina as much?
I don't know. I guess, when I'd follow it a little bit, but if you don't really personally know the coach and you're living 2,000 miles away, it's pretty easy to lose some contact. I followed South Carolina basketball a lot more in the last couple of years since I got to know Coach Odom at a personal level, and then I would follow it. I followed, for example, Georgia Tech very closely from whenever Bobby Cremins took over, 1980 till 1987, and would go there once a year for a game because I had a personal connection with with Bobby. So I think that's natural when you lose some of your personal connections that you may not follow the program as closely, especially if you're not geographically close to it.
This will be the last question.
Did you participate in any reunion with the Nuggets? They haven't played with them for a number of years?
Yeah, I played there for 3 years, and I did participate in an ABA reunion, actually. My first 5 years I played in the ABA, and a few years ago they had an event in Denver. But again, I haven't traveled much for some other ABA and pro events I had been invited to, and largely because of just scheduling. I still work full-time as a lawyer, and my wife also works full-time, and we had 3 children over the years, and so you get pretty busy. But I did go to an ABA reunion, which I enjoyed very much, being around a lot of the pro players I played with and against over a 5-year period in the ABA.
One more question. I recall you telling us back in July, I think you actually went to law school while you're still playing pro basketball. So you actually played another year after you already earned your law degree.
Yeah, I think I have the distinction of the only licensed lawyer to play in the NBA. At the time, I was licensed. I graduated from law school in '81 and 1981 from the University of Denver, and took the bar exam that summer, and then played my last year of professional basketball in 1981, 1982.